Now we may go back to Stefano Carosio. You mentioned before the activities in Brussels, Horizon 2020, and we talked about systems and difficulties in systems, an aspect that maybe was emphasized in the last few years in certain products. When I buy a washing machine or a refrigerator in stores, the different class of efficiency is quite clear, A++, and so on and so forth. It's quite different when we talk about bulbs, especially if we talk about systems, but the end user sees a system because he's buying a certain quantity of heat and he'd like to understand what's the investment he's expected to make in order to have an average heat amount all over the year. How do you see the activities that the European Union is carrying out in this field and the possibility of have more transparency on the market? First of all,
well, the Bologna, as it has been said maybe earlier, it's an engineering company, but by coincidence in December we have been bought by one of the leading certification companies, which is RINA in Italy. And then this topic will become, of course, of a high priority for the overall group. As it concerns the research part, which is the area which I'm following. I mean, the broad discussion on the labels is something that, of course, as far as Brussels is concerned, is much bigger. But as far as my experience in the European Energy Efficient Building Association and the road mapping exercise, which is leading to the call, which is maybe the main subject for today, this has been highlighted definitely as one of the key driver for market uptake. And what is being discussed in Brussels is the leading role of labeling and standardization overall in research, starting from the beginning of the chain, because more and more is becoming evident that tackling the problem towards the end of successful projects or promising demonstration of technology is leading to a lot of delay in entering the market. And because we are not, let's say, used to labels or standards which are driven by the market in Europe, but there is a complex mechanism. If this mechanism is not triggered since the early stages, this may lead unfortunately, in delays in market uptake, which is something that is clearly addressed by the project. The fact that the Bologna will be somehow in charge of it started 1 year ago, before, let's say, the larger dimension for the Bologna came into the picture with the acquisition by RINA, but definitely something that will become more and more important in different stages, and the project will tackle that since the very beginning, because let's say the standards should be proactively addressed in the definition of the requirements, because there are actual standards and labels, but let's say they can be shaped with maybe the creation of specific working groups by involving those research centers that today's, as it was mentioned maybe earlier, are deeply involved in such committees. So the role of Sensenelec and the selection of the research partners, by making sure that those experts which are sitting in those committees are also heavily involved in the research part of the project, is definitely something that has to be pushed. And the association working with the Commission on defining the priorities has clearly in mind that this is something that we cannot neglect, and there will be, and some project has already been launched at the future calls, which will tackle this specifically. And this is an area where the Commission is spending and will spend in the future a lot of resources.
Yeah, thank you, Stefano, for this clarification. Mr. Macchi, we have been talking about the laboratory the Politecnico of Milano is putting up, but for the Politecnico, obviously research and testing is a very important aspect. The second heart of each university as well, the issue of teaching. And I think as well in this kind of technologies, teaching is a major aspect in order to get people on the market known about the technology, about the possibilities, and as well push these technologies in future further. So can you give us a few words about what Politecnico is doing and the things to do in the next years within this field?
Well, first of all, the Politecnico decided that energy is a very important topic and will be an important topic in the next decades. So decided to found this Department of Energy, which is something unique in Italy, such a large, which so many differences, different professors coming from different areas and different expertise. And we have a course on energy engineering, which was very successful. We launched that 10 years ago, more or less, and the first year we had 90 students entering in the course. Now we have a closed number of 450, and we saturated it, and so we can select the best student among the students who like to make engineering in our course. And so energy for us is very important, and I think every professor in energy, one of the first lectures explained to the students that boilers are a very poor way of using the potential of fuel to generate low temperature heat. And so we stress a lot all possible technologies which have a better use of fuel, like combined heat and power, heat pumps, electric or gas, and district heating, renewables, and so on. So I feel we have a quite important role in making a generation of young engineers who are confident with the principle of thermodynamics, with energy savings, and so on. And then most our students then go working in industries or organizations which are in the energy field. So it's a kind of network which goes on. And some of our former students went also, for instance, to the authority of Italian authority, and so now we have a role. It was mentioned that Italian Authority of Energy and Gas has a convention with universities and of course with Politecnico. So we help the authority in deciding from the technical part of the rules, which are very important, and I feel this role is also very important for a university to participate to setting the rules for energy saving. And my personal idea is that it's much easier to save energy in various possibilities in energy building, because energy building in building, heating building, because this is a very poor way of using the fuel, and there are a lot of potential of energy saving on that. And so I agree totally, and this is what we teach also to students, that the role of heat pumps is definitely underestimated in all these graphs we have seen. It's so much easy to save energy by low temperature heat generating than in electricity or in other field. Then there is so much room for that I personally am sure that heat pumps will have a great future.
Thank you, Mr. Macchi, for these clarifications. Peter, let's come back to Fraunhofer ISE. You talked about your field test activities, but you're very active as well in testing laboratories on the one hand, but as well in doing quite basic research on material pairs and absorbance and so on. So what is your feeling, what is the main focus for Fraunhofer in these years within the research activities within thermally driven heat pumps?
Well, it's a broad answer. I would say, since I'm from a research institution, no one will be surprised that I state there's definitely more research needs. But I wouldn't state that we need now a couple of more research before we go to the market. Instead, I would say we have excellent products. We have to go to the market directly right now with the products we have, because they are already competitive, at least in very good applications. But in the back, our competing technologies are not sleeping either. So if we want to enlarge our market share in the next 10 years, we must have something in the pocket for the next generation. And for these, I see we need a highly interfacultary research, really coming from chemistry, developing new materials, for example, new sorbents, new refrigerants, like these ionic liquids you mentioned in the research agenda. So we really need new materials, but also know heat exchanger designs, new heat exchanger concepts, partly also driven by new materials with less corrosion or other heat conductivity properties. But let's going up really to the system level, where you say, okay, you need better control strategies. And another thing we have to do, for example, inside Heat for You is, at the moment with this technology, we don't have the economy of scale in our back, producing large numbers being already very cheap. So we have to start with identifying the applications where they really fit best. So we start with a broad parameter study and a simulation to say, okay, these are the key issues of these particular technologies. So these are the applications where we can benefit first, and to start there. Selling, and the second is then we can say with simulations what are the key issues we have to improve with our research to widen our market view.
Thank you, Peter Schossig. One last question. Time is already quite advanced to Giuseppe Carollo from Enea. We have been talking about testing, about monitoring. I think another fundamental aspect in research is simulation, dynamic simulation, simulation of single components, but as well of the combination of buildings and systems. Can you explain us in a few words what Enea is doing in that field, and where you see a further need, let's say, in the field of standardization of simulation procedures, of comparison of simulation procedures, as well to clarify and, let's say, close the gap between simulation activities on the one hand and monitoring data on the other hand?
Tra la simulazione e I dati. At Enea, we have activities on simulation, especially on absorption machines, where we developed calculation codes on stationary simulation that allow us to calculate and size the individual components of our machines, which are usually not on the market, and that's why there are so few machines built worldwide belonging to this category. Since we also test complete systems, we are experimenting a full building in real scale with 1,200 square meters, used for offices, with solar cooling, with absorption, lithium-based technologies. We did the dynamic simulation of the whole building, and we're validating it with experimental data. Of course, having an experimentally validated model like this allows you, during the design phase, to replicate the results on the system on another building. We did the same with compression machines, with a water-water helium-assisted evaporator. We wanted to see whether there was a competition between these and those with an underground geothermal probe. The results were quite positive, and indeed we're going to start a cooperation with an industrial partner in Italy. The industrial partner will try to build a machine with an onboard helium-assisted menu. And we will work together with Carol, which is the company that produces 90% of the onboard controllers for these machines. Grazie.
Unfortunately, we have to come to an end now. Time is advancing. So before closing, I would just like to inform you that within the Renewable Heating and Cooling Technology Platform, we are in a quite advanced phase of elaborating a strategic research agenda for research activities to be pushed forward in Europe in the field of of renewable heating and cooling and energy efficient heating and cooling. And obviously all the activities we are discussing here today are of major importance. So on the one hand, for the ones who are interested, we should publish this document around May, June. There will be a major conference in Copenhagen in April, but as well for the experts here in the field who want to contribute, they are very welcome to have a look on the website of the Renewable Heating and Cooling Technology Platform, and as well introduce themselves with their activities and their input to these activities. So I would like to thank very much to the podium here. I hope the discussion was interesting as well for you. Thanks for Robur and the whole Heat4U team for the organization for this excellent conference, and have a nice afternoon.
Thank you.